I'm sure you've heard the news, plastic is everywhere, but did you know it's in our food too? For decades, tiny bits of plastic called microplastics have snuck into our meals. From our water to our fish, they're everywhere. And guess what? We've been eating them. Studies show that from 1990 to 2018, our intake of these pesky particles skyrocketed across 109 countries. But why should we care? Well, these microplastics can harm our health, making it a global crisis. The good news? By cutting down on plastic waste, we can slash this intake by half. So let's get cracking on reducing plastic use. Thanks to our follower, Sameh Victor, for suggesting this crucial topic. Stay curious, stay informed, and let's make our planet healthier together. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell for more science-packed videos. Catch you next time on the Science Salah Lotfy Channel. Our planet faces a silent invasion. It's not from outer space, but from something we created, plastic. Microplastics, tiny particles often invisible to the naked eye, are infiltrating our world. They're ending up in our food and, ultimately, in us. We've all heard about plastic pollution in our oceans, but the problem extends far beyond these visible reminders. Microplastics, less than 5 millimeters in size, are now found everywhere. They contaminate our water, soil, and air. From the fish we eat to the salt we sprinkle on our food, microplastics are finding their way onto our plates. It's time to understand this hidden danger and take action. The issue of microplastics in our food isn't a new phenomenon. It's been steadily growing over the past few decades. In the 1990s, research begins to highlight microplastics in the marine environment. Scientists find these particles in seafood, raising early concerns. Moving into the 2000s, studies reveal microplastics in various food sources, including salt, sugar, honey, and bottled water. By the 2010s, awareness grows, and research shows a significant increase in microplastic concentrations in seafood. From 2018 to the present, microplastic pollution reaches alarming levels. Scientists estimate that an average person ingests a credit card's worth of plastic every week. This timeline underscores the urgency to address plastic pollution at its source. The impact of microplastics is a global concern. Industrialized nations with high plastic consumption have robust waste management systems. However, even advanced methods cannot fully contain microplastics. Developing nations face challenges with limited waste management infrastructure. This leads to higher levels of plastic pollution and greater microplastic concentration in local food sources. The global nature of this crisis highlights the need for international cooperation. Developed nations must assist developing countries in improving waste management practices. Collaborative efforts are crucial to combating plastic pollution and protecting health worldwide. The journey of microplastics from their source to our stomachs is complex. It often begins with larger plastic items breaking down into microplastics. These particles enter our environment through various pathways. Rivers carry mismanaged plastic waste to the ocean, spreading microplastics. Marine life ingests these particles, becoming part of the food chain. Seafood becomes a significant carrier of microplastics to our tables. Microplastics are also present in our soil due to sewage sludge and plastic mulch. Crops grown in contaminated soil absorb these particles. Furthermore, microplastics are present in the air we breathe. These particles settle onto crops and water sources. This airborne pathway adds another layer of complexity to the problem. As microplastics infiltrate our food chain, what are the health risks? These particles can attract and accumulate chemical pollutants. When ingested, these pollutants can leach from the microplastics, disrupting our hormonal systems. Microplastics might be small enough to cross the gut barrier and enter our bloodstream. They can cause inflammation in the gut, disrupting the gut microbiome. More research is needed, but early evidence is concerning. We must prioritize efforts to reduce plastic pollution and protect human health. The pervasive nature of microplastic pollution might seem overwhelming, but it's not insurmountable. By addressing the problem at its source, we can create a cleaner, healthier future. Reducing reliance on single-use plastics is crucial. Opt for reusable alternatives and support bans on unnecessary plastic products. Improve waste management systems and invest in advanced recycling technologies. Innovation plays a vital role in combating microplastic pollution. Researchers are developing solutions for removing existing microplastics from the environment. Addressing this global challenge requires a collective effort. Governments, businesses, communities and individuals all have a role to play. The time to act is now before this invisible threat causes irreversible harm. Our planet faces a hidden threat. Microplastics, tiny particles of plastic less than 5 millimeters in size, have infiltrated every corner of our world. From the deepest oceans to the highest mountains, these minuscule fragments are now a ubiquitous presence. They lurk in the water we drink, the food we eat, and even the air we breathe. Invisible to the naked eye, microplastics pose a significant threat to our health and the environment. These plastic particles originate from larger plastic products that break down over time. The degradation process is slow and insidious, releasing countless microplastics into the environment. Their small size and persistence make them easily transported by wind and water, spreading across vast distances. Once in the environment, microplastics accumulate in the food chain, posing a significant risk to wildlife and ecosystems. The pervasiveness of microplastics is a stark reminder of our planet's plastic problem. We are producing and consuming plastic at an unprecedented rate, with devastating consequences for the natural world. The time to act is now. We must reduce our reliance on plastic, improve waste management practices, and develop innovative solutions to clean up existing pollution. The future of our planet depends on it.
Section 5. Indonesia, a sea of microplastics. Indonesia, a nation renowned for its stunning archipelagos and abundant marine life, is facing a severe microplastic crisis. The country is the world's second-largest contributor to marine plastic pollution, with a significant portion of this waste ending up in the ocean. Indonesia's reliance on seafood as a primary protein source makes its population particularly vulnerable to microplastic exposure. A study by researchers from the University of Hasanuddin in Makassar found that Indonesians consume an average of 11,000 microplastic particles per year from seafood alone. The study also found that microplastic contamination was most prevalent in small fish, which are often consumed whole. This finding is particularly concerning as it suggests that vulnerable populations who rely on these fish as a primary food source may be at higher risk of microplastic exposure. Indonesia's microplastic crisis highlights the complex interplay between environmental pollution, food security, and public health. The country's experience serves as a stark warning to other nations grappling with the growing threat of microplastic pollution.
Section 6, the price of progress, industrialization and microplastic pollution. The global rise of microplastic pollution is inextricably linked to the rapid pace of industrialization. As countries around the world embrace industrial development, plastic production and consumption continue to soar. Industrialized nations, with their high levels of consumerism and reliance on single-use plastics, are significant contributors to the global microplastic burden. These countries often export their plastic waste to developing nations where waste management systems are often inadequate. The increasing use of plastic in agriculture, construction and textiles further exacerbates the problem. Plastic microbeads, once commonly used in cosmetics and personal care products, are now being phased out in many countries. However, other sources of microplastic pollution, such as tire wear and synthetic textiles, continue to release microplastics into the environment. Addressing the global microplastic crisis requires a fundamental shift in our approach to industrial development. We need to move away from linear models of production and consumption and embrace circular economy principles that prioritize resource efficiency, waste reduction, and material reuse.
Section 7. Turning the tide solutions for a microplastic-free future. Combating the pervasive threat of microplastic pollution requires a multifaceted approach that addresses the problem at its source, during its life cycle and at the point of disposal. Solutions range from technological innovations to policy changes and individual actions. Advanced wastewater treatment plants can play a crucial role in capturing microplastics before they enter our waterways. Filtration systems, such as those using activated carbon or membrane technology, can effectively remove microplastics from wastewater. Innovative technologies are also being developed to tackle microplastic pollution in our oceans. These include specialized vessels designed to collect plastic debris and floating barriers that trap and concentrate microplastics for removal. Improving waste management practices is crucial to prevent plastic waste from entering the environment. This includes promoting recycling, composting organic waste, and reducing our reliance on single-use plastics.
Section 8. Governments and policies. Leading the charge against plastic pollution. Governments play a critical role in addressing the global microplastic crisis. By implementing strong policies and regulations, governments can incentivize sustainable practices, reduce plastic consumption, and promote responsible waste management. Bans and restrictions on single-use plastics have proven effective in reducing plastic waste. Several countries and municipalities have implemented bans on plastic bags, straws, and cutlery, leading to a significant reduction in plastic pollution. Extended Producer Responsibility, or EPR schemes, hold manufacturers accountable for the entire life cycle of their products, including end-of-life management. EPR programs incentivize companies to design products that are easier to recycle and encourage the development of circular economy models. Governments can also invest in research and development of innovative solutions to microplastic pollution. This includes funding research into the health impacts of microplastics, developing advanced treatment technologies, and supporting the development of biodegradable and compostable alternatives to plastic.
Section 9. Our shared responsibility. A call to action. The fight against microplastic pollution is not just the responsibility of governments and industries. It requires a collective effort from individuals, communities, and organizations worldwide. Every action, no matter how small, can contribute to a cleaner, healthier planet. Reducing our reliance on single-use plastics is a crucial step we can all take. Opt for reusable alternatives whenever possible, such as reusable water bottles, coffee cups, and shopping bags. Support businesses that prioritize sustainable practices and offer plastic-free alternatives. Proper waste disposal is essential to prevent plastic from entering the environment. Dispose of plastic waste responsibly, separating recyclables from general waste. Participate in community cleanups to remove plastic litter from our streets, parks, and waterways. Educate yourself and others about the impacts of microplastic pollution. Share your knowledge with friends, family, and colleagues. Advocate for stronger policies and regulations to address the plastic crisis. A world without microplastics. The microplastic crisis is a stark reminder of our interconnectedness with the natural world. The plastic we produce and discard does not simply disappear. It fragments into smaller and smaller pieces, infiltrating every corner of our planet and threatening the health of all living things. The task ahead may seem daunting, but it is not insurmountable. By embracing a global commitment to sustainability, we can turn the tide on microplastic pollution. We can create a world where plastic is no longer a threat to our health or the environment, but a valuable resource that is managed responsibly and sustainably. The future of our planet depends on the choices we make today. Let us choose a path that leads to a cleaner, healthier, and more sustainable future for all. Let us choose a world without microplastics. Our planet faces a hidden threat: microplastics. These tiny plastic fragments, less than 5 millimeters in size, have infiltrated every corner of our world, from the deepest ocean trenches to the air we breathe. They are so pervasive that they have even been found in the most remote and pristine environments on Earth. Microplastics originate from larger plastic debris that breaks down over time, exacerbated by sunlight, wind and waves. This process, known as photodegradation, causes the plastic to fragment into smaller and smaller pieces. These fragments come in various shapes and sizes, often too small to be seen with the naked eye, making them particularly dangerous. Their small size allows them to be easily ingested by marine life and even enter the human food chain. The presence of microplastics has been confirmed globally, from the Arctic to the Pacific Islands. Scientists have found them in the most unexpected places, including the ice cores of the Arctic and the deepest parts of the ocean. They have been found in marine animals, soil and even the air, highlighting the pervasive nature of this environmental challenge. The ingestion of microplastics by marine animals can lead to physical harm and toxic exposure. Their journey begins with the careless disposal of plastic products which find their way into our waterways and oceans, breaking down into microplastics. This cycle of pollution continues, affecting ecosystems and human health alike. The impact of microplastics on marine life is alarming. These tiny plastic particles, often invisible to the naked eye, are wreaking havoc beneath the ocean's surface. Marine animals, from the smallest plankton to the largest whales, often mistake these plastic fragments for food. This tragic error leads to starvation, internal injuries, and ultimately death for many creatures. As these particles are ingested by smaller organisms, they accumulate in the food chain. Top predators like sharks, tuna, and even humans face the highest levels of exposure as these microplastics make their way up the food chain. Microplastics can block digestive tracts, cause severe internal injuries, and absorb other pollutants from the environment. They act as toxic Trojan horses, carrying harmful substances into the bodies of marine animals. The presence of microplastics in seafood is a growing concern for human health. These particles have the potential to disrupt endocrine function, interfere with hormone regulation, and cause a myriad of other health problems. This situation serves as a stark reminder of the interconnectedness of our planet. The consequences of our actions, particularly plastic pollution, ripple through the environment, affecting all forms of life. The exact impact of microplastic consumption on humans is still under investigation. However, the potential for harm is undeniable, and ongoing research aims to uncover the full extent of these effects on human health. Coastal communities relying on seafood face a heightened risk of consuming contaminated fish and shellfish. The fishing industry contributes to the problem through plastic fishing gear, which can persist in the ocean for decades, breaking down into microplastics. Addressing microplastic pollution requires reducing plastic consumption, improving waste management, and implementing stricter regulations. Promoting sustainable fishing practices, such as biodegradable fishing gear, can help reduce plastic entering our oceans. Microplastics have also become airborne, carried by wind currents across continents. This means even those far from coastlines are exposed to these pollutants. Airborne microplastics can be inhaled, potentially causing respiratory problems and other health issues. Studies show these particles can carry harmful bacteria and viruses, posing a risk of infection. The sources of airborne microplastics include car tires, synthetic clothing, and plastic debris in landfills. Once airborne, these particles can travel vast distances, reaching remote corners of the globe. The presence of microplastics in the air underscores the need for global efforts to reduce plastic consumption and improve waste management. Despite the challenge, there is hope. Scientists and engineers are developing technologies to detect, capture, and remove microplastics from the environment. These include advanced filtration systems for wastewater treatment and specialized vessels to collect plastic debris from the ocean. Governments are implementing policies to address the issue, such as bans on single-use plastics and extended producer responsibility schemes. Research into biodegradable and compostable plastics offers potential alternatives to conventional plastics. Public awareness campaigns educate consumers about the impacts of plastic pollution and encourage responsible consumption habits. Promoting reusable alternatives and reducing plastic packaging are essential steps in combating the microplastic problem. The fight against microplastic pollution requires a coordinated global effort. International organizations, like the United Nations Environment Programme, facilitate cooperation and knowledge sharing. UNEP raises awareness about marine litter and microplastics, providing a platform for countries to share best practices.
The organization has developed global commitments to reduce plastic pollution, such as the Global Partnership on Marine Litter.
International cooperation is essential for addressing the transboundary nature of microplastic pollution. Collaborative efforts are needed to develop harmonized standards, share data, and implement effective solutions globally. Financial and technological support from developed countries to developing nations is crucial for strengthening waste management infrastructure and promoting sustainable consumption.
Southeast Asia faces a particularly acute challenge from microplastic pollution. Rapid industrialization and inadequate waste management have led to a surge in plastic waste entering the region's rivers and oceans. The Mekong River is heavily polluted with plastic debris, much of which originates from upstream countries. This plastic waste eventually makes its way into the South China Sea, one of the most polluted seas in terms of plastic concentration.
Coastal communities relying on fishing are seeing declining fish stocks and contamination of their food sources. Addressing the microplastic crisis in Southeast Asia requires strengthening waste management systems, promoting sustainable consumption, and fostering regional cooperation. Protecting our water resources from microplastic contamination requires a comprehensive approach. This includes reducing our reliance on single-use plastics, improving waste management practices, and investing in technologies to capture and remove microplastics. Source reduction involves reducing our consumption of plastic products, particularly single-use items. Promoting reusable alternatives such as bags, bottles, and containers is essential. Improving waste management practices is crucial for preventing plastic waste from entering the environment. Implementing extended producer responsibility schemes can incentivize manufacturers to design products with end-of-life in mind. By sharing the responsibility for waste management, we can create a more circular economy that minimizes waste and reduces the environmental impact of plastic.
Communities around the world are taking the initiative to address the microplastic issue. They organize beach cleanups, advocate for policy changes, and raise awareness about the impacts of plastic pollution. Community-led initiatives often focus on practical solutions tailored to local contexts. In coastal communities, fishermen are engaged in collecting plastic waste from the ocean as part of their fishing activities.
Education and awareness campaigns are essential for changing behaviors and promoting responsible consumption habits. By working together, individuals, communities, and organizations can create a powerful movement for change.
The fight against microplastic pollution is a shared responsibility that demands urgent action from all sectors of society. This issue is not confined to one area or one group. It affects us all, and thus, we must all be part of the solution. Governments, industries, communities, and individuals must work together to reduce plastic consumption and improve waste management practices. This collaboration is essential to create a significant impact and drive meaningful change. We must recognize that our actions have consequences that extend far beyond our immediate surroundings. The plastic we use today can end up in oceans, harming marine life and ecosystems for years to come. By making conscious choices to reduce our plastic footprint, we can each contribute to a solution. Simple actions like using reusable bags, bottles, and containers can make a big difference. Supporting businesses that prioritize sustainability and advocating for stronger environmental regulations are meaningful actions we can take. These efforts help create a market demand for eco-friendly products and push for policies that protect our environment. Let us rise to the challenge and create a world where plastic pollution is a distant memory and future generations can inherit a clean, healthy, and thriving planet. Together, we can make a lasting impact and ensure a better future for all. Imagine a pristine beach, the kind of place where the sand is soft and white, stretching out as far as the eye can see. The waves gently lap at the shore, creating a soothing, rhythmic sound that calms the soul. The sun shines on turquoise waters, casting a shimmering glow that dances on the surface. It's a scene straight out of a postcard, a paradise that seems almost too perfect to be real. Palm trees sway in the gentle breeze, their fronds rustling softly. The air is filled with the scent of salt and the promise of relaxation. It's a place where worries melt away and time seems to stand still. Now picture this idyllic scene marred by plastic waste. Bottles, bags and other debris litter the shore, disrupting the natural beauty and harmony. It's a stark contrast to the paradise we imagined, a jarring reminder of the impact of human activity. This is the reality of countless coastlines worldwide. From the most remote islands to popular tourist destinations, no place is immune to the scourge of plastic pollution. It's a problem that transcends borders and affects us all. But the problem runs deeper than what meets the eye. Beyond the visible trash, there lies an even more insidious threat. Microplastics, tiny fragments of plastic less than 5 millimeters in size, are infiltrating every corner of our environment. These microscopic plastic particles, invisible to the naked eye, permeate our environment. They are found in the air we breathe, the water we drink, and the food we eat. They are everywhere, and their impact is profound. They infiltrate our oceans, rivers, and soil. They are carried by currents and winds, spreading far and wide. No ecosystem is safe from their reach, and their presence is a growing concern for scientists and environmentalists alike. These microplastics are ingested by marine life, entering our food chain with alarming consequences. Fish, birds, and other animals mistake them for food, leading to malnutrition, poisoning, and even death. The effects ripple through the food web, ultimately impacting human health. The sheer scale of this pollution is staggering. It's estimated that millions of tons of plastic enter the oceans each year, and the numbers continue to rise. The problem is so vast that it can feel overwhelming, but we cannot afford to be paralyzed by its magnitude. It represents a global crisis demanding immediate action. Governments, industries, and individuals must come together to address this issue. We need comprehensive policies, innovative solutions, and a collective commitment to change. We must act now to stem the tide of microplastics and preserve the health of our planet for generations to come. This means reducing our reliance on single-use plastics, improving waste management systems, and investing in research and technology to find sustainable alternatives. The time for complacency is over. We can no longer ignore the evidence or delay action. Every piece of plastic we prevent from entering the environment makes a difference. Every effort counts, no matter how small. Let us embark on a journey towards a cleaner, healthier future, free from the pervasive threat of microplastic pollution. It's a journey that requires dedication, innovation, and a shared vision of a world where nature thrives and humanity lives in harmony with the environment. Together, we can make this vision a reality. Reducing microplastic exposure requires a multi-pronged approach. This means that we need to address the issue from various angles, involving different sectors of society, from scientists and researchers to policymakers and everyday citizens. Each group has a unique role to play in combating this pervasive problem. We must tackle this challenge at its source, preventing further pollution. This involves stringent measures to stop plastic waste from entering our rivers and oceans in the first place. By focusing on upstream solutions, we can significantly reduce the amount of microplastics that eventually make their way into marine environments. We must also develop innovative solutions to remove existing microplastics from the environment. This includes investing in cutting-edge technologies designed to clean up our oceans and beaches. From advanced filtration systems to specialized cleanup vessels, these innovations are crucial in our fight against microplastic pollution. One crucial strategy involves revolutionizing our approach to waste management. Modern waste management facilities are essential in minimizing plastic waste generation. By improving how we handle waste, we can prevent plastics from breaking down into microplastics and entering the environment. Implementing effective waste collection and recycling programs is paramount. Efficient waste collection systems in urban areas ensure that plastics are properly sorted and recycled, reducing the likelihood of them becoming microplastics. Community participation in recycling programs can make a significant difference. Furthermore, we must transition away from single-use plastics. This means encouraging the use of reusable containers and shopping bags. By making small changes in our daily habits, we can collectively reduce the demand for single-use plastics, which are a major source of microplastic pollution. Embracing reusable alternatives and promoting sustainable packaging options are essential steps in the right direction. Grocery stores and restaurants can lead the way by offering products with sustainable packaging and switching to biodegradable alternatives for items like straws and cutlery. Addressing industrial discharge is another critical area of focus. Industries must be held accountable for their contributions to microplastic pollution. Monitoring industrial wastewater for microplastic contamination and reducing plastic pellet discharge from factories are vital measures. By implementing stricter regulations and encouraging industries to adopt sustainable practices, we can significantly reduce microplastic pollution at its source. Eco-friendly practices in manufacturing plants and stringent regulations on plastic waste disposal in industrial zones are necessary to curb this issue. The path forward is clear. By embracing these strategies, we can mitigate the risks posed by microplastics and create a healthier future for all. Community cleanup efforts and thriving marine ecosystems without microplastic pollution are tangible outcomes of our collective actions. Together we can make a difference and ensure a cleaner, safer environment for future generations. Microplastics pose a significant threat to our food security and ultimately our health. These tiny plastic particles, often less than 5 millimeters in size, originate from a variety of sources, including the breakdown of larger plastic debris, microbeads in personal care products, and synthetic fibers from clothing. Once they enter the ocean, they are nearly impossible to remove and can persist for hundreds of years. These particles are ingested by marine life, accumulating in their tissues and entering our food chain. Fish, shellfish, and other marine organisms mistake these microplastics for food, leading to a buildup of plastic in their bodies. This not only affects the health of marine life, but also has serious implications for the animals and humans that consume them. Seafood, a staple in many diets worldwide, is particularly vulnerable to microplastic contamination. Studies have shown that a significant percentage of seafood products, including fish and shellfish, contain microplastics. This contamination can affect the nutritional quality of seafood, as well as its safety for human consumption. This contamination poses a direct risk to human health, as microplastics can leach harmful chemicals into our bodies. These chemicals, which include additives used in plastic production and pollutants absorbed from the environment, can disrupt endocrine function, cause inflammation, and even lead to cancer. The long-term health effects of microplastic ingestion are still being studied, but the potential risks are alarming. Strengthening food quality control measures is essential to mitigate this risk. Governments and regulatory bodies must implement stringent standards for monitoring and controlling microplastic contamination in seafood. This includes setting maximum allowable limits for microplastics in food products and conducting regular inspections to ensure compliance. Implementing rigorous testing protocols for seafood products can help identify and remove contaminated products from the market. Advanced analytical techniques such as spectroscopy and chromatography can detect even trace amounts of microplastics in food. By ensuring that only safe, uncontaminated seafood reaches consumers, we can reduce the health risks associated with microplastic ingestion. Moreover, raising consumer awareness about the presence of microplastics in seafood is crucial. Public education campaigns can inform consumers about the sources and risks of microplastic contamination, as well as the steps they can take to protect themselves. This includes choosing seafood from reputable sources, supporting sustainable fishing practices, and reducing plastic use in their daily lives. Informed consumers can make responsible choices, opting for sustainably sourced seafood or reducing their overall consumption. By supporting fisheries and aquaculture operations that prioritize environmental sustainability, consumers can help reduce the amount of plastic entering the ocean. Additionally, reducing overall seafood consumption can decrease the demand for contaminated products and encourage the industry to adopt cleaner practices. By prioritizing food safety and promoting sustainable seafood practices, we can protect ourselves and future generations from the dangers of microplastic contamination in our food. This requires a collective effort from governments, industry, and consumers to address the root causes of plastic pollution and ensure a safe, healthy food supply for all. Together we can safeguard our food chain and create a more sustainable future. Water, the lifeblood of our planet, is under threat from microplastic pollution. These tiny particles permeate our rivers, lakes, and oceans, jeopardizing aquatic ecosystems and threatening human health. Implementing effective wastewater treatment systems is paramount to removing microplastics from our water sources. Advanced filtration technologies can capture and remove these particles, preventing them from entering our waterways. Furthermore, reducing plastic waste at its source is essential. Promoting reusable water bottles, banning single-use plastics, and implementing responsible waste management practices are crucial steps in the right direction. Protecting our water resources from microplastic pollution is not merely an environmental concern, it is a matter of global health and security. By taking decisive action, we can safeguard this precious resource for generations to come.
Microplastics. They are tiny particles of plastic, less than 5 millimeters in diameter. Imagine something smaller than a sesame seed. These particles are practically invisible to the naked eye, yet they are everywhere. They lurk in our oceans, rivers, and soil. Now they are in our food and water, making their way into our bodies. Microplastics come in various shapes and sizes. They can be fragments from larger plastic items, like water bottles and bags. Regardless of their origin, these tiny particles pose a big problem. Microplastics enter our food chain through various pathways. One major route is through our oceans. Plastic waste ends up in rivers and flows into the sea. It breaks down into microplastics. Marine life ingests these microplastics. This leads to bioaccumulation. We ingest microplastics by eating contaminated seafood. Microplastics also infiltrate land-based food sources. They are absorbed by crops, ending up in our food. Even our drinking water isn't immune. Understanding the scale of microplastic contamination in our food requires quantifiable data. Scientists employ various methods to measure the concentration of microplastics in different food items. A common approach involves analyzing food samples for microplastic content. Researchers first collect representative samples of the food item, be it fish, shellfish, fruits, vegetables, or processed foods. Next, they employ a series of steps to isolate the microplastics from the organic matter. These particles are then filtered and analyzed using sophisticated techniques like microscopy and spectroscopy. This information is crucial for assessing the potential risks to human health and for developing effective strategies to mitigate microplastic contamination in the food chain. Microplastic consumption is not a localized issue, it's a global concern. Research suggests that regions with high seafood consumption, such as coastal communities in Southeast Asia and the Mediterranean, tend to have higher microplastic intake. This correlation is unsurprising, given the significant plastic pollution plaguing our oceans. However, it's important to note that microplastic consumption is not limited to seafood eaters. The ubiquity of microplastics in the environment means that they are present in various food sources, including fruits, vegetables, meat, and processed foods, making their way into diets globally. The FAO database reveals that even in landlocked countries, microplastic intake is a concern. Understanding regional variations in microplastic consumption is crucial for tailoring mitigation strategies. Section 5. A growing concern. The upward trend of microplastic ingestion. The problem of microplastic ingestion isn't static, it's escalating. Over the past few decades, global plastic production has skyrocketed, leading to a parallel surge in plastic pollution. This increase in plastic waste inevitably translates to more microplastics in the environment and, consequently, in our food chain. Studies examining trends in microplastic contamination paint a concerning picture. Research published in the journal Nature Communications analyzed sediment cores dating back to the 1950s and found a clear correlation between increased plastic production and the abundance of microplastics in the environment. As we continue to produce and dispose of plastic at unsustainable rates, we are essentially fueling the contamination of our planet and ourselves. The implications of this upward trend are significant. Addressing this growing concern requires a multi-pronged approach. Section 6. Trapped within. Microplastic accumulation and health risks. Once microplastics enter our bodies, they don't simply pass through our system unnoticed. While some microplastics may be excreted, research suggests that a portion can be retained within our tissues and organs, raising concerns about potential long-term health effects. Emerging evidence suggests that their small size allows them to cross biological barriers and interact with our cells in ways that could disrupt normal physiological processes. For instance, a study published in the journal Environment International found microplastics in human blood samples for the first time, indicating that these particles can travel throughout the circulatory system and potentially reach various organs. Another study detected microplastics in human lung tissue, suggesting that inhalation of airborne microplastics is another route of exposure. While more research is needed to fully elucidate the long-term health consequences of microplastic accumulation, several potential risks have been identified. Section 7. Stemming the tide. Strategies to reduce microplastic intake. While the pervasiveness of microplastics can feel overwhelming, there are steps we can take as individuals and as a global community to stem the tide and reduce our exposure to these ubiquitous pollutants. One crucial step is to reduce our reliance on single-use plastics, a major source of microplastic pollution. Opting for reusable alternatives like cloth bags, water bottles, and food containers can significantly decrease the amount of plastic waste we generate. Supporting businesses and organizations that prioritize sustainability and offer plastic-free alternatives is another impactful action. Furthermore, advocating for stricter regulations on plastic production, use, and disposal can create systemic change. Making informed choices about the food we consume can also help reduce our microplastic intake. Education and awareness raising are essential for driving individual and collective action. Section 8. Beyond ingestion. Inhalation as a route of microplastic exposure. Recent research highlights another significant route of microplastic exposure: inhalation. Microplastics, light enough to be carried by air currents, are found in the air we breathe. They originate from sources like synthetic textiles and car tire dust. Inhalation raises concerns about respiratory health effects. These particles can penetrate deep into the respiratory tract. Lodged microplastics could trigger inflammation and respiratory issues. Section 9. Our shared responsibility, a call to action for a plastic-free future. The pervasiveness of microplastics in our environment and their infiltration into our food chain demands our attention and action. This is not a problem for future generations to solve. It's a challenge we must confront now. The health of our planet and our own well-being are inextricably linked, and addressing the issue of microplastic pollution is a shared responsibility. Reducing our reliance on single-use plastics is paramount. By embracing reusable alternatives, supporting businesses that prioritize sustainability, and advocating for stricter regulations on plastic production and disposal, we can stem the tide of plastic pollution at its source. Making informed choices about the food we consume can also minimize our microplastic intake. The journey towards a plastic-free future requires a collective effort.
Imagine a world where invisible invaders infiltrate our bodies, silently accumulating over time, affecting our health in ways we are only beginning to understand. This isn't science fiction. This is the reality of microplastics, tiny particles that have become an inescapable part of our daily lives. Microplastics are tiny pieces of plastic, smaller than 5 millimeters, that have become ubiquitous in our environment, infiltrating every corner of the earth. They are found in our oceans, our soil, and even in the air we breathe, making it nearly impossible to avoid them. These particles are so pervasive that they have been detected in the most remote locations, far from human activity. These tiny fragments represent a significant threat to human health, as we unknowingly consume and inhale them daily through our food, water, and even the air. The insidious nature of microplastics lies in their size, which allows them to easily enter our bodies without detection. They are often too small to be seen with the naked eye, making us unaware of their presence and the potential harm they can cause. We ingest them through our food and water, unknowingly incorporating these particles into our bodies, and we inhale them with every breath as they float invisibly in the air around us. This constant exposure raises concerns about the potential long-term consequences for human health as scientists continue to study the effects of these invisible invaders on our bodies. Our modern reliance on plastic has created a food chain contaminated with microplastics. These tiny particles, often invisible to the naked eye, are now a pervasive part of our environment. From the deepest oceans to the highest mountains, these tiny particles have infiltrated the ecosystems that sustain us. They are carried by wind, water, and even wildlife, spreading far and wide. Seafood, in particular, poses a significant risk, as fish often mistake microplastics for food. These particles can cause physical harm to marine life, blocking digestive tracts and leading to malnutrition. This leads to bioaccumulation, where microplastics concentrate in larger fish higher up the food chain. As these fish are consumed by predators, including humans, the concentration of microplastics increases. It's not just seafood that's affected. Microplastics have been found in a variety of other foods. Microplastics are also found in fruits, vegetables, and even bottled water. They can enter the food supply through contaminated soil and water used for irrigation. They leach into our food from plastic packaging and contaminate crops through irrigation with polluted water. The problem is exacerbated by the widespread use of plastic in agriculture and food storage. Every bite we take, every sip we drink, could be delivering a dose of these invisible invaders into our bodies. The long-term health effects of consuming microplastics are still unknown, but the potential risks are a growing concern for scientists and health experts worldwide. While we might imagine microplastics as primarily a water-based problem, the air we breathe is also a significant pathway for exposure. These tiny particles are light enough to be carried by the wind, traveling vast distances and reaching even the most remote corners of the globe. Urban areas with their high levels of traffic and industrial activity tend to have higher concentrations of airborne microplastics. Every breath we take draws these microplastics into our lungs, where they can potentially irritate and inflame delicate tissues. The long-term consequences of inhaling these particles are still being investigated, but the potential for respiratory problems and other health issues is a growing concern. The amount of microplastics we consume varies depending on where we live and our lifestyles. However, studies show that people around the world are ingesting and inhaling significant quantities of these particles. A recent study estimated that the average person consumes approximately 5 grams of plastic per week, the equivalent of a credit card. Industrialized nations with their high plastic consumption and often inadequate waste management systems tend to have higher levels of microplastic pollution. Developing countries, while producing less plastic overall, often face challenges with waste disposal, leading to significant microplastic contamination in their environments. Section 5. From sea to stomach. The case of seafood consumption. Seafood has long been a staple in many diets around the world, providing essential nutrients and a rich source of protein. However, seafood consumption is now a major source of microplastic exposure, particularly in coastal communities and countries with high levels of seafood in their diets. Fish and shellfish, being integral parts of many cultures' culinary traditions, are now inadvertently delivering a significant dose of microplastics to those who consume them. Countries like Japan, with its sushi culture, and Spain, known for its tapas featuring seafood, face a greater risk of microplastic ingestion. These microplastics can accumulate in the body over time, posing potential health risks to individuals in seafood-centric cultures. The cultural significance of seafood in these regions makes it challenging to simply eliminate it from the diet. Seafood is not just food, it is a part of their heritage and identity. This deep-rooted connection makes it difficult to remove seafood from traditional diets. However, raising awareness about sustainable fishing practices and reducing plastic pollution are crucial steps in mitigating the risks. By adopting more sustainable practices and reducing our plastic footprint, we can help protect both our health and the environment. Section 6. Plastic paradises, where waste management falls short. While microplastic pollution is a global problem, certain regions are particularly vulnerable due to inadequate waste management systems. Countries with rapidly developing economies often prioritize economic growth over environmental protection, leading to inadequate infrastructure for handling plastic waste. In some cases, plastic waste is dumped directly into rivers and oceans, where it breaks down into microplastics, entering the food chain and ultimately ending up on our plates. These plastic paradises, as they are ironically dubbed, serve as stark reminders of the consequences of neglecting waste management and the interconnectedness of our planet's ecosystems. Section 7. The body under siege, health implications of microplastic exposure. While research on the long-term health effects of microplastic exposure is still ongoing, initial findings raise concerns. These tiny particles can potentially disrupt the endocrine system, interfering with hormone production and potentially leading to developmental and reproductive issues. Studies have also shown that microplastics can cause inflammation in the gut, potentially leading to digestive problems and other health issues. The ability of these particles to cross the blood-brain barrier raises further concerns about their potential impact on brain health and cognitive function. Section 8. Turning the tide waste management as a powerful solution. Addressing the microplastic crisis requires a multi-pronged approach with effective waste management at its core. Improving waste collection and sorting systems, particularly in developing countries, is crucial to prevent plastic waste from ending up in the environment. Investing in advanced recycling technologies can help transform plastic waste into valuable resources, reducing the need for virgin plastic production. Promoting a circular economy where plastic is reused and recycled rather than discarded is essential in stemming the tide of microplastic pollution. Section 9. United we stand, the need for global collaboration. The fight against microplastic pollution transcends national borders. It requires a concerted global effort to address this shared threat to human and environmental health. International agreements and collaborations are crucial for sharing knowledge, coordinating research efforts, and implementing effective solutions. Developed nations have a responsibility to assist developing countries in building robust waste management systems and transferring environmentally sound technologies. By working together, we can create a cleaner, healthier planet for current and future generations. Section 10. a shared responsibility. Every action counts. While the scale of the microplastic crisis might seem overwhelming, it's important to remember that every action counts. Reducing our reliance on single-use plastics, choosing reusable alternatives, and supporting businesses committed to sustainability are small but significant steps we can all take. By making conscious choices in our daily lives, we can collectively reduce the amount of plastic waste that ends up in the environment, ultimately lessening the amount of microplastics we consume and inhale. Section 11. A future free of microplastics, a goal within reach. The pervasive presence of microplastics in our environment is a stark reminder of the unintended consequences of our reliance on plastic. However, it is not too late to reverse course and create a future free of these invisible invaders. By embracing sustainable practices, investing in innovative technologies, and fostering global collaboration, we can turn the tide on microplastic pollution and safeguard the health of our planet and ourselves. The journey towards a microplastic-free future begins with each of us making conscious choices and demanding change.
The Industrial Revolution, a period of unprecedented technological advancement, has left an indelible mark on our world. It was a time of great progress, innovation, and transformation, reshaping societies and economies. However, this era of rapid industrialization also sowed the seeds of a hidden menace that we are grappling with today. While it brought progress, it also unleashed a hidden threat: microplastics. These minuscule particles, often invisible to the naked eye, have become a pervasive pollutant, infiltrating every aspect of our environment. These tiny particles, less than 5 millimeters in size, now permeate every corner of our planet. They are found in the most remote and pristine locations, from the Arctic ice to the depths of the Mariana Trench. From the deepest oceans to the air we breathe, microplastics have become a ubiquitous presence. They are carried by ocean currents, wind, and even rain, spreading far and wide. Our reliance on plastic, a product of industrial ingenuity, has come at a cost. The convenience and durability of plastic have led to its widespread use, but also to its persistent pollution. As plastic products break down, they release countless microplastics into the environment. This degradation process is slow, taking hundreds of years, during which time the particles continue to accumulate. These particles infiltrate our food chain, our water sources, and ultimately, our bodies. They are ingested by marine life, which is then consumed by humans, creating a cycle of contamination. The long-term consequences of this insidious invasion are still unfolding, but the evidence is clear. Microplastics pose a significant threat to human health. Studies have linked them to various health issues, including inflammation, toxicity, and even cancer. The pervasiveness of microplastics is a stark reminder of our interconnectedness with the natural world. Our actions have far-reaching consequences, impacting ecosystems and human health alike. What we discard into the environment ultimately finds its way back to us. The cycle of pollution and contamination is a testament to the need for responsible waste management and sustainable practices. Addressing this challenge requires a global effort, a collective responsibility to curb our plastic consumption and mitigate the impact of this modern plague. It calls for innovation, policy changes, and a shift in consumer behavior to protect our planet and future generations. The link between industrialization and microplastic pollution is undeniable. As industries expand, the production of plastic products increases exponentially. As nations industrialize, their reliance on plastic products surges. This surge is driven by the demand for convenience and cost-effectiveness that plastic offers. This increased production and consumption of plastic inevitably lead to a corresponding rise in microplastic waste. Every plastic item, from packaging to household goods, contributes to this growing problem. Studies have shown a clear correlation between a country's level of industrial development and the concentration of microplastics found in its environment and people. The more developed the industry, the more significant the microplastic footprint. The more industrialized a nation, the higher the levels of microplastic contamination. This contamination is not just limited to land, but extends to water bodies and even the atmosphere. This pattern is particularly evident in rapidly developing regions experiencing a surge in manufacturing and consumerism. the boom in production leads to an increase in plastic waste, which breaks down into microplastics. The consequences of this trend are far-reaching. Microplastics infiltrate ecosystems, affecting wildlife and human health alike. Microplastics have been detected in our food, water, and even the air we breathe. They are pervasive, making their way into every aspect of our daily lives. Their presence in our bodies raises concerns about potential health risks, including inflammation, organ damage, and hormonal disruptions. The long-term effects are still being studied, but the current findings are alarming. While microplastic pollution is a global problem, certain regions are particularly vulnerable due to a combination of rapid industrial growth and inadequate waste management systems. These regions are often caught in a cycle where economic development takes precedence over environmental concerns, leading to severe pollution issues. East and South Asia, with their burgeoning manufacturing sectors, are facing a particularly acute microplastic crisis. The rapid industrialization in these areas has outpaced the development of effective waste management systems, exacerbating the problem. Countries in these regions often lack the infrastructure and resources to effectively manage the massive amounts of plastic waste generated by their industries. This lack of infrastructure means that much of the plastic waste ends up in the environment, contributing to the growing microplastic problem. This results in widespread plastic pollution, with microplastics finding their way into rivers, oceans, and ultimately, the food chain. The presence of microplastics in the food chain poses significant health risks to both wildlife and humans, as these tiny particles can carry harmful chemicals. West Asia and Africa also face significant challenges, albeit for different reasons. In West Asia, the issue is compounded by the region's heavy reliance on the oil and gas industry. West Asia, with its heavy reliance on the oil and gas industry, produces large quantities of plastic used in packaging and other applications. The production and use of these plastics contribute significantly to the region's pollution levels. Africa, while less industrialized, faces difficulties in managing plastic waste due to limited resources and infrastructure. The lack of proper waste disposal systems means that plastic waste often accumulates in the environment, leading to severe pollution issues that affect both urban and rural areas. Protecting our water sources is paramount in the fight against microplastic pollution. Water quality control measures, such as regular monitoring and filtration, are crucial for preventing microplastics from entering our drinking water supplies. Advanced filtration systems, including those using activated carbon or membrane technology, can effectively remove microplastics from water. Implementing these systems at water treatment plants and even in homes can significantly reduce our exposure to these harmful particles. However, prevention is just as important as treatment. Reducing our reliance on single-use plastics, improving waste management practices, and promoting sustainable alternatives are essential for stemming the flow of microplastics into our waterways. Wastewater treatment plants play a critical role in removing microplastics from our water systems. These facilities use a combination of physical, biological, and chemical processes to treat wastewater before it is released back into the environment. While wastewater treatment plants were not designed to specifically target microplastics, they can effectively remove a significant portion of these particles through filtration and sedimentation processes. However, the efficiency of microplastic removal varies depending on the treatment technology used and the size of the particles. Upgrading wastewater treatment plants with advanced filtration technologies, such as membrane bioreactors and ozonation, can enhance their ability to capture even the smallest microplastics. Investing in these improvements is essential for safeguarding our water resources and protecting public health. Section 6. A shared responsibility, international collaboration for a microplastic-free future. Addressing the global challenge of microplastic pollution requires a coordinated international effort. No single country can solve this problem alone. Collaboration is essential for sharing knowledge, resources, and best practices. International agreements, such as the Basel Convention on the Control of Transboundary Movements of Hazardous Wastes and their Disposal, provide a framework for regulating plastic waste trade and promoting environmentally sound management practices. Strengthening these agreements and fostering greater cooperation among nations is crucial for reducing plastic waste, improving waste management systems, and developing innovative solutions to tackle this global threat. Section 7. 1. Health, One Planet. A unified approach to microplastic pollution. The One Health framework, which recognizes the interconnectedness of human, animal, and environmental health, provides a valuable lens through which to view and address the challenge of microplastic pollution. Microplastics do not discriminate. They affect all living organisms and ecosystems. By adopting a One Health approach, we can develop holistic solutions that consider the health of all living things and the planet we share. This integrated approach encourages collaboration across disciplines and sectors, bringing together scientists, policymakers, industry leaders, and communities to develop comprehensive strategies for preventing and mitigating microplastic pollution. Section 8. The Path Forward, Refining Our Understanding and Predictions. While we have made significant strides in understanding the extent and implications of microplastic pollution, much remains unknown. Further research is needed to fully comprehend the long-term effects of microplastics on human health and the environment. We need to refine our ability to accurately measure and monitor microplastic levels in different environmental compartments and human tissues. Developing standardized methods for sampling, analysis, and data reporting is crucial for generating reliable and comparable data. Furthermore, we need to enhance our understanding of the fate and transport of microplastics in the environment. This knowledge will help us develop more effective strategies for preventing their spread and mitigating their impact. Section 9. A Call to Action, Protecting Ourselves and Our Planet. The fight against microplastic pollution is a shared responsibility. Each of us has a role to play in protecting ourselves and our planet from this insidious threat. By making conscious choices in our daily lives, we can collectively make a difference. Reduce your reliance on single-use plastics. Choose reusable alternatives whenever possible. Support businesses that are committed to sustainable practices and reducing their plastic footprint. Advocate for stronger policies and regulations to address plastic pollution. The future of our planet depends on our collective action. Let us rise to the challenge and create a world where both humanity and nature can thrive, free from the scourge of microplastic pollution.